use an existing palette first and practice with it, and eventually you will be able to make your own palettes. Hello and welcome back, fantasy cartographers. In this episode I want to have a quick recap of the previous steps, and then on the next video we will move to expanding the map, and we will talk about what to do and what kind of differences in every step we should take if we are making a bigger map. So before I move there, congratulations for finishing the first half. At this point I assume you already started making maps and maybe finished one or two small maps, so congratulations. And let's now jump right into a recap of the previous steps. If you recently just watched all of the episodes, then you may skip, but I just, in case, want to recommend you to watch this one as well, just to be safe. So let's jump right into there. The things that I want to remind you now is, first, clarify what kind of settings you want to have. If your map is a floating island, if your map is huge, small, if your map is happening in a very volcanic area, what kind of setting you have. So determine that first, and then move on to making the coastlines. Start with basic shapes and carve and add on chunks and pieces of lens to create a unique shape. And when creating that shape, don't forget to make smoother and more rougher coastlines. Try to catch a balance between the two, and you will have a nice looking coastline. Moving on to the second step, use coloring to plan your mountain ranges. Experiment and practice on how you can make the ranges look like they're naturally spreading. When we move to the bigger maps, I'm gonna tell you more about how the mountain ranges should create a composition together. For this step, don't worry about it. Just practice on making realistic looking mountain ranges. And yeah, that's it. Once you are done with coastlines and mountains, start adding rivers and lakes to your map. Also, again, reminding you that this is our first map. When we are working on a bigger map, at this point we will actually start using the colors more to plan it, and it will also help us to understand where the lakes and rivers should go. But at this stage, add some rivers and lakes. Try to make also different kinds of combinations with rivers and lakes. Catch different combinations and remember the types of lakes you have, like the ones that have continuous cycle, the ones that don't have cycle. So keep those in mind, experiment, don't create repeating patterns, and don't go with coast to coast, which is the biggest mistake. So these are the things that I want to quickly remind you. Moving on with the next step, we have forest. Start with major forest. You can make the outline, or you can also use coloring to plan where your forests go. And if you start with major and then minor and then add the details, you will have nice looking, natural looking forest. Just like the rivers, don't do repeating ones. Try to make forests that have gaps inside. Try to make like long forest, wider forest, the forest that absurdly change shapes, etc. After the forests, when you're coloring and planning, etc., you can also do the natural points of interest. So as you can see, we don't have cliff here, but now we have cliff. It's going to be nicer to categorize in your mind, and the process is going to be more smooth. If you're adding volcanoes, it may be nicer to do it when you are making the mountain ranges. Moving on with the coloring, keep it very simple. Do a very like rough strokes. Don't try to go into detail. And to start with the coloring, use Avaro or some similar themes that already comes with color palettes, because it will help you to pick up colors. And while you're working with those palettes, you will also eventually learn how to create yours, or how, like what kind of colors and what kind of combinations you should make, especially when you will need new colors. It will eventually force you to practice finding colors. And when coloring the map, especially because it's a small map, don't try to add so many geographies, don't try to add so many biomes. Stick with one or two different biomes and just keep it simple. And for waters and coastlines, use themes to save time. And if you also want to practice coloring the water, keep it simple. Use maximum 3 colors for the waters, maybe even 2. So moving on with the settlements, I want to quickly remind you that there are basically, in the core idea, 2 types of settlements: shapes, illustrations. And each of these can be isometric or 2D. And for the starting point, I recommend you to go with the shapes instead of illustrations, so that you will not have any problems about the colors matching, and it's going to be simple and it's going to be much quicker to add them and find places for them. When we extend the map, I'm going to use the illustrations and we will cover the details about using those there. So moving on with the paths, for the sake of keeping this simple, stick with 1 or 2, like 1 or 2 color and 1 or 2 shapes. Don't add 5 colors, 7 shapes, etc. We are not trying to make things complicated. Keep it simple. Here I'm just using a few times to show you the possibilities, but when you're making your map, you might even want to just stick with dots at the beginning. And one final thing is, just like the rivers and the coastlines, don't make them same roughness, especially when you're around mountains. Maybe you can make them rougher. When you are in the valleys, they might be smoother, and when they are on the sea, they should be as flat as possible and preferably a different color. Following up with labels, there are again 2 basic idea of adding labels: directly putting the text on the map or putting some kind of background to the label. So this one right now is the label being directly on top of the map. If you directly put the labels on the map, it will force you to adjust them so that they're readable, but it will give you more area to show on the map. If you have backgrounds, they are going to be looking much nicer, more aesthetic, but the background will take some space on the map. So when you have lots of labels, you will have less of the map and potentially lose some details due to those details being behind that background. Moving on with the adjustments, once you are done with all these things, you can add some monsters, you can add some wind roses, and you can plan the frame with them, like with the wind roses, and that will also help you to understand where you might need to put your compass, where you might need to put your map key, so it can guide you. The placement and the patterns that you create with the wind roses can guide you. But remember, if you need like monsters, you can add it on the previous steps, especially if they're related to your story, if you're not using them just to add some more color to it. These steps, I want to remind you, that can be switched, and sometimes you can go back and you can go forth. So moving on with the final step, once you are done with all the like monsters and all the details that you added that will have a more mappy feeling, the final step can be adding the compass, the font, like the title of the map, and the map key and the frame. And once you do all of these things, you will have a map ready to use, finished. So congratulations again, and that's it. I hope this helped you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.